Welcome back, coin collectors, treasure hunters, and curious minds, to the channel where everyday pocket change can turn into life-changing discoveries. And today, you're about to hear one of the most fascinating and shocking stories in modern American coin collecting, because we are diving deep into how an ordinary-looking 1981 Washington quarter dollar from the Denver Mint has captured attention across the numismatic world, with rumors, valuations, and legendary possibilities reaching as high as $62 million. And while that number sounds unbelievable, the journey of how such a coin could even be considered at that level is filled with minting errors, production anomalies, historical context, collector psychology, and the extreme rarity that fuels massive auction prices. So settle and stay focused, and imagine the next quarter you find could change your future forever, as we explore how the 1981 quarter became one of the most talked about modern coins in circulation history. The early 1980s were a chaotic time for the United States Mint, with economic pressures, inflation, rising metal costs, and changes in minting technology forcing facilities like Denver to push production at aggressive speeds. Quarters were being struck by the hundreds of millions to meet demand, and during periods of rushed output, mistakes happen more often than most people realize. And the 1981 quarter exists right in that danger zone where quality control sometimes failed and rare anomalies slipped through unnoticed into circulation. The majority of these quarters are worth face value, but hidden among them are legendary error combinations that, when stacked together, can elevate a single coin into a once-in-a-lifetime artifact. Collectors dream about one of the most powerful contributors to the massive value claims is the possibility of a transitional planchet error, where a 1981 quarter could have been struck on an incorrect metal composition, such as a leftover experimental alloy or an improperly mixed clad planchet, resulting in abnormal weight, magnetic behavior, or acoustic ring tests that do not match standard copper-nickel specifications. When a quarter displays such anomalies verified by professional grading services, it instantly separates itself from millions of normal examples. Another major value driver lies in dramatic double die errors, particularly on the obverse, where Washington's profile inscriptions like "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" may show extreme doubling visible without magnification. Unlike minor machine doubling, true double dies are created during the die manufacturing process, and once discovered, they are locked into numismatic history forever. If a 1981 quarter exists with a previously unknown dramatic double die, it would become unique and historically significant, pushing its value into extraordinary territory. Even more powerful is the possibility of a triple threat error combination, where double die features appear alongside off-center strikes, broad strikes, or rotated dies, creating a coin that defies expectations and becomes instantly iconic. Off-metal strikes add yet another explosive layer of value. When a quarter is struck on a planchet intended for a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin, the result is an unmistakable anomaly, and Denver Mint errors of this magnitude are exceptionally scarce, especially when paired with sharp strikes and full design visibility. Another category fueling the $62 million narrative involves mule errors, which occur when mismatched dies are paired together, such as a quarter obverse combined with a completely different denomination reverse. These errors are among the rarest in all of U.S. coinage, and when authenticated, they routinely reach record-breaking prices because they represent mistakes that should never happen within mint operations. A 1981 quarter mule would instantly become one of the most famous modern errors ever recorded, adding fuel to astronomical valuations. Collectors also look closely at strike quality and surface anomalies, such as struck-through grease errors, which can leave parts of the design missing, filled, or distorted. And while minor grease strikes are common, extreme examples that obscure large portions of the coin while maintaining mint luster are extraordinarily rare. Another overlooked but critical factor is die state progression, where late-stage dies crack, shatter, or collapse, leaving raised lines, retained cud formations, or dramatic breaks across the coin. And when these features intersect with key design elements, they can produce one-of-a-kind visual signatures that collectors aggressively pursue. The Denver Mint in 1981 also faced alignment challenges, creating opportunities for extreme die rotation, where the reverse is rotated far beyond standard tolerances, and rotations exceeding 90 or even 180 degrees transform an ordinary quarter into a mechanical anomaly that commands intense bidding pressure. Condition plays a monumental role in pushing values into speculative territory, and if an error-ridden 1981 D quarter exists in pristine mint state with original luster, minimal contact marks, and strong eye appeal, it becomes exponentially rarer than circulated counterparts, especially because most errors went unnoticed and were spent rather than preserved. The idea of a $62 million valuation does not come from average error coins, but from the theoretical existence of a perfect storm piece combining multiple major mint errors in flawless condition with impeccable documentation and certification by top grading authorities. The psychology of elite collectors cannot be underestimated, because when wealthy buyers compete for singular artifacts, prices can escalate beyond traditional valuation models. History has shown that unique coins often sell not based on metal content or age, but on story, rarity, and prestige, and the 1981 D quarter occupies a fascinating position because it is modern enough to surprise people, yet old enough to carry mystery and forgotten mint records. Many error discoveries are made decades later, when collectors re-examine coins with new technology and fresh perspectives. Modern imaging, weight analysis, and metallurgical testing continue to reveal hidden anomalies previously undetectable, which means undiscovered 1981 D quarter errors could still be sitting in collections or even loose change. The Denver mint market itself adds intrigue, because D-mint errors often receive heightened attention due to the facility's production scale and historical output patterns. And when something goes wrong at Denver, it often produces spectacular results. Collectors are especially drawn to coins that challenge assumptions, and a quarter worth millions disrupts everything people believe about money. That shock factor alone amplifies demand and media attention, further inflating perceived value. Another possibility includes wrong planchet thickness, where a quarter is struck on a planchet rolled too thin or too thick, creating edge anomalies, reading distortions, and altered diameters that immediately flag the coin as extraordinary. The presence of missing clad layers also contributes significantly, where either the copper core or outer nickel layers are absent, revealing strange color textures and weights that fascinate collectors. Some missing clad layer errors appear on only one side, while others affect the entire coin in complete separation. Examples are exceedingly rare. When these errors intersect with die varieties, they create compound anomalies that defy categorization and push valuations higher. Provenance also matters tremendously, and if an error coin can be traced back to original mint sealed bags, rolls, or documented discovery stories, it gains credibility and narrative power, which wealthy collectors value just as much as physical rarity. Rumors of experimental strikes during this era persist, and although officially undocumented, the possibility of test planchets escaping destruction fuels speculation and treasure hunting excitement. The 1981 D quarter exists in an era where record keeping was not as transparent as today, leaving gaps that collectors love to explore and exploit. The idea that something extraordinary slipped through unnoticed keeps people searching rolls and collections decades later. Every legendary coin story begins with disbelief, and history shows that today's impossible price is tomorrow's record auction headline. While not every 1981 D quarter is valuable, the few that carry extraordinary combinations of mint errors, condition, and provenance could indeed become numismatic legends worth staggering sums. The takeaway is simple: never ignore your change, never underestimate modern coins, and never assume value is limited to age or precious metals, because sometimes a quarter from 1981 struck in Denver during a chaotic moment in minting history can rise from obscurity to fame and fortune. And as you continue your collecting journey, remember that the next unbelievable discovery could be waiting in your pocket drawer or old jar of coins. And that is why we keep searching, learning, and sharing these incredible stories here on the channel, where ordinary coins reveal extraordinary secrets every single day. Next, 1992 D quarter dollar USA coin. In Today to the channel, where ordinary pocket change turns into extraordinary stories of fortune, mystery, and possibility, because in this video, we are diving deep into one of the most shocking and fascinating what-if scenarios in modern American coinage, the 1992 D quarter dollar, a coin that most people have seen, spent, or ignored, yet, under the right circumstances, and with the right combination of rare errors, mistakes, and unusual minting possibilities, this single quarter has been rumored by collectors and speculated by experts to reach a mind-blowing value of up to $78 million. And today, we are going to explore exactly how such a jaw-dropping number could even be possible by breaking down the minting process, the historical background, the types of errors that occurred or could occur during the year, and why a simple Denver-minted Washington quarter could theoretically become one of the most valuable coins on the planet. So settle and stay focused and imagine that one of these coins could be hiding in a drawer, jar, or forgotten collection somewhere, because the story of the 1992 D quarter is not just about metal, it is about mistakes, timing, rarity, survival, and the powerful psychology of collectors who chase the impossible. The year 1992 sits at a fascinating crossroads in U.S. mint history because it came just before major compositional transitions, just before heightened public awareness of modern errors, and during a time when minting technology was advanced but not flawless. The Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of Washington quarters in 1992 intended for everyday circulation, featuring the familiar portrait of George Washington on the obverse and the eagle reverse that had been used for decades. Yet behind this ordinary appearance lies a complex production process involving master hubs, working dies, planchets, presses, quality control, and human oversight. And it is precisely within this complexity that the seeds of extraordinary error coins are born. Some of the most valuable coins in existence were never meant to exist at all. They were accidents, deviations from the norm that slipped through unnoticed until sharp eyes discovered them years or decades later. And when collectors realized just how few survived, demand exploded and value soared. And this is where the 1992 D quarter enters the realm of legend, because several categories of errors, either known, suspected, or theoretically possible, could elevate a single example into the stratosphere of numismatic value. One of the most discussed possibilities involves transitional errors, which occur when the mint is changing designs, compositions, or hub styles. And although the major quarter redesign did not officially occur until 1999, with the state quarters program, the early 1990s were a period of experimentation, hub updates, and subtle design modifications that could result in mismatched dies or incorrect hubs being paired together. Imagine a 1992 D quarter struck with an experimental reverse hub never intended for circulation, or a mule coin combining an obverse mint for a quarter with a reverse mint for a different denomination entirely. Such mule errors are among the rarest in U.S. coinage history, and when authenticated, they command enormous prices because they represent a breakdown at multiple levels of minting oversight. For such a coin to exist, it would require the wrong dies to be installed, the presses to strike multiple examples, and quality control to fail entirely, allowing at least one specimen to escape into circulation. And while this sounds unlikely, history proves it has happened before. And when it does, collectors go wild, because these are the kinds of errors that redefine what is considered possible. Another path to extreme value lies in wrong planchet errors, particularly involving off-metal strikes. If a 1992 D quarter were struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or even a different metal entirely, such as a silver planchet left over from proof production, or a foreign coin blank accidentally mixed into Denver Mint supplies, the result would be a quarter with incorrect weight, color, sound, and composition. Off-metal errors are highly prized, especially when the metal is precious and the date and mint mark are clear. A 1992 D quarter struck on a silver planchet would instantly become one of the most important modern errors ever discovered, because it would contradict established mint records and raise questions about how such a mistake occurred and how many might exist, and rarity combined with mystery is a powerful driver of value, pushing serious collectors, institutions, and museums into bidding wars that can escalate into the tens of millions. Another extraordinary category involves double die errors, which occur when the die itself receives multiple impressions from the hub at slightly different angles, resulting in doubling visible on letters, numbers, and design elements, unlike mechanical doubling, which is common and adds little value. True double dies are dramatic, bold, and rare, and if a 1992 D-quarter displayed extreme doubling across Washington's portrait, the date, the mint mark, and the motto inscriptions, it would stand out immediately as a discovery coin, particularly if it were the only known example or one of just a handful. And in the modern era, when millions of eyes are searching for errors, true double dies are still occasionally found, proving that even with improved technology, mistakes persist, and when such an error is paired with pristine condition, the value multiplies exponentially, because collectors are not just buying the error, they are buying the best known example of that error, and in numismatics, the finest known specimen often becomes the benchmark against which all others are judged. Another factor that cannot be overstated is condition, rarity. A coin does not need to be unique to be extraordinarily valuable. If it is the only one known in perfect or near perfect state, a 1992 D-quarter with a spectacular error preserved in flawless mint state condition with full original luster, sharp strikes, and no circulation, where would become a trophy coin for elite collectors, because modern coins rarely survive without contact marks, bag marks, or handling issues, and finding a dramatic error that somehow avoided all damage is almost unheard of. And when professional grading services certifies such a coin at the highest levels, it gains instant credibility and market recognition, setting the stage for record-breaking prices. But perhaps the most intriguing and speculative possibility involves undisclosed or experimental strikes. There have been instances in U.S. mint history where experimental compositions, test strikes, or special runs were produced without public documentation, intended solely for internal evaluation. If a 1992 D-quarter were struck using an experimental alloy never officially released, and one of these pieces escaped destruction, it would become a numismatic unicorn, because it would represent a missing chapter in mint history. Collectors would not only be bidding on a coin, but on the story behind it, the unanswered questions, the research potential, and the prestige of owning something that reshapes understanding of modern mint practices. This is how values reach unimaginable heights, because money follows stories, and the bigger the story, the higher the stakes. Another layer that adds to the $78 million speculation is the phenomenon of error stacking, where multiple errors occur on a single coin. Imagine a 1992 D-quarter that is struck off center on the wrong planchet with a double strike and a major die crack or cut, all present simultaneously. Such combinations are extraordinarily rare because each error has its own probability, and when combined the odds multiply, making survival almost impossible. And yet coins like this have been found in other denominations, and when they are authenticated, they are treated as once-in-a-lifetime discoveries. Collectors do not compare them to ordinary errors, because there is no comparable piece. Instead, the market must invent a new price category, and when multiple wealthy collectors compete, the ceiling becomes theoretical rather than practical, driving prices into uncharted territory. And then there is the psychological component, which cannot be ignored. In numismatics, perception often becomes reality. When enough experts agree that a coin is important, its value solidifies and grows. If a 1992 D-quarter were presented to the numismatic community with compelling evidence, expert authentication, and peer-reviewed research supporting its extraordinary nature, the buzz alone could elevate its value dramatically. Auction houses thrive on headline-making lots, and a coin touted as potentially the most valuable modern quarter ever would attract global attention, drawing bidders from beyond traditional coin collecting circles, including investors, museums, and private foundations, all seeking to own a piece of history. And when prestige enters the equation, money becomes secondary to legacy, and that is how values leap from thousands to millions seemingly overnight. Another important aspect is survivorship bias. While hundreds of millions of 1992 D quarters were struck, the vast majority were used heavily worn, damaged, or melted over time. Error coins are often pulled early from circulation, but many are also unknowingly spent and destroyed, meaning the true population of dramatic errors may be far lower than expected. And if only one example of a particular error combination survives, it becomes functionally unique. Uniqueness is the holy grail of collecting, and when paired with a mainstream denomination like the quarter, which has universal recognition, the appeal broadens dramatically because even non-collectors understand what a quarter is, making the story accessible and powerful across cultures and generations. All of these factors come together to explain how a simple copper nickel clad coin dated 1992 with a small D mint mark beneath Washington's portrait could theoretically command a price normally reserved for ancient gold coins or legendary rarities, because value in numismatics is not about age alone, it is about deviation from the expected, the shock of the unexpected, and the thrill of discovery. And as more people search rolls, collections, and old jars, the possibility, however slim, remains that an undiscovered masterpiece is still out there waiting for the right eyes to recognize it. And that is why stories like the $78,001,992 D quarter continue to captivate audiences, inspire collectors, and fuel the dream that pocket change can still change lives, because every coin tells a story, and sometimes that story is far bigger than anyone ever imagined. Next, 1994 D quarter dollar USA coin. Today we're exploring the legendary tale of the 1994 D Washington quarter dollar, a coin that on the surface looks completely ordinary yet has captured the imagination of collectors worldwide due to the idea that a single example with the right combination of minting errors, production mistakes, condition, provenance, and extreme rarity could theoretically reach an astonishing value of up to $65 million. And as we begin this journey together, imagine yourself holding a simple quarter in your hand, one you might receive as change at a store, but hidden within that everyday object could be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, because the world of numismatics is full of surprises, and the 1994 D quarter sits right at the center of that excitement. Struck at the Denver Mint during a time of massive production, when millions upon millions of quarters were being made to keep up with circulation demand. Yet within that flood of coins, the smallest deviations, errors, and anomalies could slip through unnoticed, creating the perfect conditions for legendary rarities to exist. And to understand why collectors even talk about values in the tens of millions, we must first understand that coin value is not just about age. It's about the story, the mystery, and the impossibility of repetition, and the 1994 D quarter represents a perfect storm where technology, human oversight, material science, and chance intersected, starting with the planchets themselves, which are the blank metal discs used to strike coins. Because if a 1994 D quarter were struck on the wrong planchet, such as a silver planchet intended for a different denomination or a foreign coin blank with the wrong metal composition, the resulting coin would immediately become extraordinary, especially if the weight and metallic signature proved it was not supposed to exist. And such off-metal errors are among the most coveted in the hobby, because they demonstrate a failure at the most fundamental stage of the minting process. And now imagine that same off-metal error also showing evidence of a double strike where the coin was struck twice slightly out of alignment, creating a dramatic overlapping image of Washington's portrait or the eagle on the reverse. And suddenly you have a compound error which exponentially increases desirability, because collectors pay not just for one mistake, but for the improbability of multiple mistakes occurring together. And then there are double dies, which are different from double strikes, because double dies happen when the die itself is misaligned during the hubbing process, resulting in coins that show strong doubling in the lettering, dates, and devices. And if a 1994 D quarter were discovered with extreme double die characteristics never officially documented, especially with bold separation visible to the naked eye, that coin would instantly become a headline piece. Because new doubled dies from modern issues are rare, and when they appear they rewrite the reference books, and rarity combined with demand is what fuels astronomical valuations. But the story doesn't stop there, because mint mark errors also play a role, and a missing D mint mark on a coin that was unquestionably struck at Denver, or a repunched or misplaced mint mark showing dramatic distortion, would add yet another layer of intrigue, particularly because mint marks in the 1990s were still punched into the dies by hand at certain stages, allowing for human error, and when you combine mint mark anomalies with other errors, the result is a coin that challenges expectations, and collectors love coins that shouldn't exist according to the rules. And then there are die breaks, cuds, and retained cuds, which occur when the die cracks or breaks during striking, leaving raised blobs or missing areas on the coin. And while minor die cracks are common, massive die breaks that dramatically alter the design are rare, especially when they occur early enough to strike only a handful of coins before the die is retired. And if a 1994 D quarter were found with a massive cud that interacts with key design elements like Washington's face or the eagle's wings, the visual impact alone could make it one of the most famous modern era quarters ever known. But condition plays an equally critical role, because era coins that survive in pristine mint state with no wear, full luster, and sharp details are exponentially rarer than those found circulated. And a flawless example, graded at the highest levels by a major grading service, becomes not just a coin, but a museum-level artifact. And when we talk about values like $65 million, we are really talking about the theoretical ceiling for a perfect storm specimen, a coin that combines an undocumented major error, extreme visual appeal, perfect preservation, and historical importance. Because high-end collectors and institutions are not just buying metal, they are buying uniqueness, and uniqueness is priceless when the right buyer is involved. And the 1994 D quarter also exists in a broader historical context, because the early 1990s were a transitional period at the U.S. Mint as production pressures increased and quality control systems were pushed to their limits, which means the potential for overlooked errors was higher than many people realized. And during this time, millions of Americans were using quarters daily, yet very few were checking them closely, allowing rare errors to circulate unnoticed or be saved without recognition, and stories abound of collectors discovering rare coins years later in old jars, rolls, or inherited collections, which fuels the dream that a life-changing coin could still be out there waiting to be found. And that dream is a powerful force in the numismatic market, driving demand and competition. And when competition meets extreme rarity, prices can reach levels that seem unbelievable to outsiders. But to insiders, they represent the ultimate prize. And provenance also matters, because if a coin's history can be traced back to its discovery, especially if it was found in an unusual or compelling way, that narrative adds intangible value, because collectors love stories as much as objects. And a 1994 D quarter discovered by an everyday person and later revealed to be a once-in-a-generation error becomes a symbol of possibility, reinforcing the idea that anyone could strike it rich through knowledge and curiosity. And then there is the role of authentication and grading, because no coin reaches legendary status without being certified, studied, and recognized by experts. And the moment a truly unique 1994 D quarter error is confirmed, it would send shockwaves through the collecting community, sparking articles, videos, auctions, and intense bidding wars. And auction houses thrive on such moments because they attract global attention. And global attention brings global money. And in a world where wealthy collectors compete for the rarest objects, a one-of-one modern U.S. coin with an extraordinary error profile could command sums that rival fine art, rare stamps, or historic manuscripts. And while most 1994 D quarters are worth only face value, the possibility that one could be worth millions is what keeps people searching, examining, and learning. And that educational aspect is important, because understanding errors, like off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, rotated dies, and wrong metal compositions. Empowers collectors to identify potential treasures, and the more people learn, the more stories emerge. And every story feeds the mythology of coins, like the 1994 D quarter, and value in this sense becomes not just a number, but a representation of human fascination with imperfection, because errors remind us that even in highly controlled systems mistakes happen, and those mistakes can become beautiful, rare, and immensely valuable. And as you listen to this story, imagine yourself checking your own change, looking closely at dates, mint marks, edges, weights, and designs, because the next legendary discovery could come from anywhere. And the idea of a $65 million quarter is not just about money, it's about hope, curiosity, and the thrill of discovery that has driven coin collecting for centuries, and whether or not such a perfect specimen ever surfaces. The conversation itself keeps the hobby alive, inspiring new collectors to pay attention to the small details that others overlook, and that is why the 1994 D quarter continues to be discussed, speculated about, and dreamed over, because in the world of numismatics possibility is everything, and as long as coins are struck by human hands and machines, there will always be the chance for the extraordinary to emerge from the ordinary, turning a simple piece of pocket change into a legendary artifact worth more than most people could ever imagine. Last 1965 $quarter USA coin. Exciting journey into the fascinating world of rare coins, where today we are diving deep into the incredible story of the 1965 $quarter, a coin that has captivated collectors and investors alike due to its unique errors and mistakes, ultimately pushing its value to an astonishing $5 million. And if you've ever held a quarter in your hand, you might not believe that a coin so common in circulation could transform into a multi-million-dollar treasure. But the tale of the 1965 quarter is a perfect illustration of how minting errors, historical context, and collector demand can intersect to create unimaginable value. And it all starts with understanding the history and production background of this coin, which was struck during a pivotal era for the United States Mint, when the transition from silver to clad coinage was occurring in response to rising silver prices and a changing economy. Specifically in 1965, the Coinage Act had come into effect, which eliminated silver from the standard $quarter composition, replacing the 90% silver with a clad sandwich of copper and nickel, a significant shift that not only altered the intrinsic value but also introduced a new set of minting challenges that would lead to some of the most collectible error coins in modern numismatics. And when the U.S. Mint embarked on producing these new clad quarters, the machinery and processes that had long been calibrated for silver coinage had to be adapted for the different weight, metal, flow, and striking pressure of the copper-nickel composition, and during this transition, certain coins were struck with anomalies that are extremely rare today, including double dies, off-center strikes, missing or partially struck features, and even planchet flaws. And what makes the 1965 $quarter even more fascinating is that unlike other error coins that may be limited to minor doubling on the lettering or mint marks, some of these coins exhibit dramatic errors that significantly alter the appearance of the coin, making them instantly recognizable and highly sought after by collectors. And one of the most prominent errors on 1965 quarters is the so-called double die obverse, where careful inspection reveals that Lincoln's profile, the date, or the inscription such as Liberty and In God We Trust appear to be double due to a misalignment in the hubbing process during die creation, a mistake that can transform an otherwise ordinary coin into a treasure worth hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars when verified by professional grading services and authenticated for rarity. And then there are off-center strikes, a type of minting error where the blank planchet is not properly aligned within the coin press, resulting in a portion of the design being pushed off the edge of the coin, while the remaining part is fully struck, and in extreme cases, these off-center strikes can be so severe that only a fraction of Lincoln's profile appears. or the lettering and date are partially missing, creating a coin that is visually striking and incredibly rare. And these examples are highly prized because the greater the off-center displacement, the fewer coins exist in that condition, driving up the market value exponentially. And another fascinating aspect of 1965 quarters is the presence of planchet flaws, which can include lamination errors, clipped planchets, or improper metal composition, all of which create a coin that is unique and distinct. And in the case of lamination errors, the copper-nickel layers can separate or flake away due to improper bonding during the cladding process, leaving a coin with a distorted surface that is immediately identifiable to collectors. And clipped planchets occur when a blank is improperly cut from the metal strip, resulting in a coin with missing sections, sometimes appearing as if someone literally took a bite out of it. And these coins are exceedingly rare, particularly in high-grade condition, because most flawed coins were melted down or circulated to the point of wear before anyone recognized their value. And what really drives the 1965 quarter dollar's astronomical $5 million valuation is the convergence of rarity, condition, and historical significance. And condition plays a crucial role because coins that have avoided circulation retain sharp details in Lincoln's portrait, the wheat stalk reverse or the eagle reverse depending on the variety, and the lettering, olive, which are essential for authentication and grading by numismatic authorities such as PCGS and NGC. And collectors pay a premium for coins that are certified as mint state or uncirculated, especially when paired with an extraordinary error such as doubling or off-center striking. And the market for these coins is fueled not only by collectors who prize historical significance and rarity, but also by investors looking for tangible assets that have consistently appreciated over time. And the historical context of 1965 also adds a compelling narrative, as this year marked the first full transition to clad quarters, representing a turning point in U.S. coinage, and the decision to remove silver entirely reflected broader economic shifts, including the rising cost of silver and the government's need to produce more coins efficiently for an expanding economy. And therefore, each surviving error coin from this year is a physical artifact of a pivotal moment in U.S. monetary history, a tangible connection to the changes and challenges faced by the mint. And this story alone increases desirability among serious collectors, making the coins almost priceless in the eyes of numismatists. And beyond the technical errors, some 1965 quarters are valuable due to die cracks, which are small fissures that appear on the coin surface because the dies used to strike them developed stress fractures. And while die cracks are relatively minor compared to major doubling or off-center strikes, they are still collectible because they document the die's usage and the production anomalies of the era. And when multiple errors appear on a single coin, such as a double die combined with an off-center strike or a significant planchet flaw, the value multiplies, because these coins are not only rare individually but even more so in combination, creating one-of-a-kind specimens that are extremely difficult to find. And the grading process for these coins is meticulous, involving detailed inspection under magnification, measurement of the strike and alignment, and verification of the metal composition to confirm authenticity. And coins that meet the strict criteria are then encapsulated and certified, often commanding auction prices in the millions due to the confidence collectors have in the certification. And in fact, auction records show that certain 1965 quarter dollars with extraordinary errors have sold for multi-million-dollar prices because serious collectors recognize both the historical importance and the absolute rarity of these anomalies. And beyond the obvious physical errors, there are also die varieties specific to the Philadelphia and Denver mints in 1965, where subtle differences in the shape of letters, the spacing of inscriptions, or the design details can create varieties that are virtually invisible to the untrained eye but extremely significant to advanced collectors. And some of these varieties were discovered decades after the coins were minted, adding an element of discovery and ongoing intrigue to the market. And the excitement around these coins is further amplified by the fact that, unlike coins from earlier eras that were carefully hoarded, many 1965 quarters were quickly circulated and used in everyday transactions, meaning the surviving high-grade era coins are exceedingly rare. And collectors often compete fiercely to locate these coins in pocket change, collections, and old coin rolls, turning the search into a treasure hunt that is both thrilling and potentially life-changing. And the combination of rarity, high appeal, historical significance, and the sheer audacity of the heirs themselves explains why a single 1965 quarter dollar could reach a valuation of $5 million in today's market. And it's not just individual collectors driving these prices. Major numismatic investors, auction houses, and even museums recognize the coin's importance and are willing to pay top dollar to secure the finest specimens. And the stories behind the coins add to their allure, as each one carries a narrative of production mistakes, chance discoveries, and a meticulous grading and authentication process that confirms its legitimacy. And when examining a 1965 quarter dollar era coin, collectors often study the details minutely, looking for subtle indicators that differentiate a genuine double die from normal die wear, or verifying that an off-center strike is the result of a minting error rather than post-mint damage. And this detailed scrutiny ensures that only the coins meeting the highest standards are considered for serious investment. And interestingly, some 1965 quarters have become so famous that they are referenced in numismatic literature, online databases, and collector forums, with each coin story documented, photographed, and debated among enthusiasts, adding to the mystique and overall desirability of owning one. And as collectors share their discoveries, the knowledge spreads, and awareness of these errors grows, driving up demand and prices even further. And the valuation of $5 million is not simply arbitrary. It reflects a combination of verified rarity, historical significance, condition, and collector enthusiasm, all converging to create a coin that is truly exceptional in every sense. And what's even more fascinating is that this coin demonstrates how errors, often seen as mistakes or flaws, can elevate a coin to iconic status, transforming a simple piece of currency into a work of art, a collectible, and a long-term investment vehicle, all in one. And for anyone interested in numismatics, the 1965 quarter dollar is a must-study coin, because it illustrates the delicate interplay between minting technology, human error, market dynamics, and historical context. And understanding these factors allows collectors to appreciate not only the aesthetic and financial value of the coin, but also the story and significance behind it, and every detail, from the exact doubling on Lincoln's features to the precise angle of an off-center strike, to the type and severity of planchet flaws, contributes to the coin's narrative, making it a living piece of history. And the excitement doesn't stop at ownership. The thrill of finding a 1965 quarter dollar with a dramatic error, even in everyday circulation, continues to captivate collectors, inspiring them to search diligently through boxes, rolls, and old collections in hopes of uncovering a once-in-a-lifetime specimen. And when such a coin is discovered, its provenance and authentication can lead to auction houses presenting it to the world, often attracting intense bidding wars that drive prices higher and cement the coin's legendary status. And in conclusion, the 1965 quarter dollar demonstrates that even the smallest errors in production can create immense value. And the journey from a simple coin minted over 50 years ago to a multi-million-dollar collectible is a testament to the intricate relationship between rarity, condition, historical significance, and collector enthusiasm. And it serves as a powerful reminder that in the world of numismatics, one minor minting mistake can transform an ordinary piece of currency into an extraordinary treasure that will be studied, admired, and coveted for generations to come. And this incredible valuation of $5 million reflects not only the rarity and desirability of the coin itself, but also the enduring fascination collectors have with the unexpected and the extraordinary in coin collecting, making the 1965 quarter dollar a shining example of how errors, once dismissed as flaws, can elevate a coin into the realm of legendary collectibles.